So, Ralph, talk to me a little bit about when you went down to the school as CEO. Who was it that you relieved?
Ray Ashion.
Oh,
Ray
okay.
Ashion.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I went down originally as the XO for about 6 months, and then I fleeted up to CO. It was a good duty for me. I had come back here. I left here. I was here about 3.5 years as the assistant leader, and waiting for a job to open up. And as it turned out, it's funny, we all talk about things that happen in your life, the turning points, and how it puts you in another direction. And sometimes when you're looking at that at the time, you're going, this is really terrible, and it's a bad thing. And then later on, you realize it was like the best thing that happened to you, because you wouldn't be where you were then, at that point. So I think it was Myers, Bill Myers, was supposed to be CO of the school. And I was supposed to go down as his XO. And he got passed over. And when he got passed over, then Commander Ashion was going to be retiring, had to retire, mandatory, 35 years. So all of a sudden, here I was, not only going down to be the XO, but I was going to fleet up to be CO, which was a really positive thing for me, to have that position and maybe put myself in a place where I could make commander, because it was kind of hard. And that was the only CO position we had in the music program at the time.
Right.
So yeah, I got to go down there and do that. And the only thing I remember is that, having not been to the school but knowing the problems that we had down there in the past, and how the Army, working with the Army and the Marines, mainly the Navy and the Army, but the Marines usually pretty much on board. There was always a lot of tension. It was difficult times to work together. And I just decided when I went down there that I was going to try to do the best I could to have us work together as one unit. We had rough times, just like anybody does. But when you're in a tri-service environment like that, with each of the services having different requirements for their musicians. But it turned out to be a great tour. I love working with the other services. I know that Captain Phillips did too, and I know he knows exactly what I'm talking about. He had a good experience down there, and I think overall working with the Army and yeah, I mean, they're a bunch of great guys, and they had super players, and their instructors were great, and really saved our butts, because we had this drawdown going, and here was a Navy. It was a naval school, and we had like 3 or 4 people on the staff. One for the Army, coming through for us. We would really been in bad shape. So yeah, we did manage to work through that one and get more staff provided later. But all in all, it was a terrific experience being at the school, and taught all the same things they did 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. The Navy had excellent musicians, of course, and we didn't have a lot of them at that time, but we had good ones, and I just enjoyed myself immensely down there. I loved the Norfolk area. It was terrific. We were the champions of the Captains' Cup a couple years in a row. The school won. One of my proudest moments was receiving the trophy, and
it's wonderful to beat those SEALs, huh?
With not only SEALs, but the Marines.
Yeah.
I mean, the colonel wouldn't come. He didn't even come. He didn't even come to the ceremony. I mean, he was so angry that a bunch of musicians, won the captain.
I loved it.
But we used to go. We used to go all out to try to get all the students involved and make sure they had time to go, participate.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of camaraderie. It was a terrific experience. And
So you became captain there?
No, I didn't.
No, not you.
I did.
He got selected.
Yeah.
I might add a footnote to what Ralph was saying in that regard. Is I went from the band the first time as to head of the music branch, and after I finished that tour, I kind of ordered myself to the school, because I knew that I'd like to have a shot at captain, and there's no question that one of the things that would ever help me make captain during the regular selection process, of which is the way I was promoted, was to have been at least a CO. Or otherwise I could have kissed it off. I mean, having the position of being a command, wearing the command badge per se, and being no matter what it was, you're going to be a captain. You need to have commanded something, rather than, let's say, O&C or something.
Right.
And then fortunately it's gone on here, and Ralph is able to bring this band into the command relationship. That's a wonderful thing.
That's another thing that makes this
Oh, sure.
little connection here so special, because
It kind of escalates for itself. I mean, I was lucky enough to make captain. I feel tremendously fortunate. They were making LDO captains. There was only 24 to 26 in the Navy total, in the whole Navy. And for a musician to pick up one of those, I was very fortunate. But by virtue of doing it, it's hopefully set a precedent that when Ralph came to where he was, and then he was able to establish this as a command, and of course get selected under a little different process, but nonetheless the process works. Captain, and now George.
the Navy finally arrived with the large service bands here in
parity.
Washington having a captain, because all of the others
Parity.
did, right?
Well,
Oh, yes.
and that should be noted that Captain Phillips is the only band officer to ever be selected for captain through the normal process.
Mhm.
And I mean, it was pretty obvious to all of us that it probably wasn't going to happen again if we didn't do something to change that. And of course, the leader deserves to be an 06, and he deserves to be a commanding officer,
Absolutely.
which is commensurate with the other service bands. And
Yeah.
we've been way far behind that power curve for a long time. So
Yeah.
everything we did was the right thing. I mean, I don't think it was self-serving at all. It was it's like I said, it was the right thing to do for the continuous
Sure.
program.
Self-serving,
And those that came after me or
Exactly.
after
Sure.
Captain, whatever, it's great to be able to see. It was great to be able to see him, have those birds on and walk in, and it was just like, yeah, this is the way it's supposed to work. So it was a great feeling.
Now, talk me through your time at the school there. We'll get to somebody here that went through the school.
Are you talking about as a basic student?
As a basic student,
Okay,
yes.
Yes. I remember being a seaman apprentice, arriving there from boot camp, and I looked at the mustering petty officer. We called them MPOs back then. And I looked at this guy, I said, if one day I could just make it to E6 to be a first class, I would have fulfilled every dream.
I will have arrived.
Because this
Yeah.
person had all the power over basic student lives. He told us where to go, when to be there, what to wear, what time to go to bed. So I wanted to be just like that. So that was my goal as a basic student. I was fortunate enough to go through the intermediate and advanced courses at the school, as well as later on, after being commissioned, serve as, like Ralph, XO, and then fleeted up to CO of the school. And it was under my watch where we were able to rededicate the schoolhouse building and call it J.D. McDonald Hall. So I had some very, very interesting experiences at the school, both as an enlisted person and as an officer.
Yeah, tell me about this MPO. Do you remember who it was?
I think it was Manny Cepeda.
Okay, I know the name. But
Mhm.
see, I never worked at that school.
Manny was here for a time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I never worked at that school.
Right.
I used to get calls frequently from the bureau. In fact, most of the time I knew who was going to get dropped from the course before the officer in charge of the school knew.
Mhm.
Because I get called over in the course, who you got ready to go, Hawk, And I a lot of times kept people for a longer period of time. So that was a good thing that happened. Yeah, you did. You came back to the school. Now tell me about in between there. You left the school and went.
I left the school as a basic student, went to Orlando as my
Mhm.
first duty station,
Mhm.
worked under Gary Blaylock, Warrant Officer Gary Blaylock.
I flunked him one time too.
And I think John Bledsoe came and relieved him, so I worked for John Bledsoe down in Orlando. Was there for 2 years. I got short-toured being a piano player. They needed one up in Newport, Rhode Island, so I was sent up to Newport and worked for Tex Waldron
Okay.
up there. And it was during a tech assist visit from the Bureau. Bill Britton was the head of the program at the time. And, you know, we had the state of the program address and all hands question and answer period. And at that time, late 70s, early 80s, I think it was 1980 at the time, we had quite a few more minority musicians in the program, but there were none in the senior leadership positions in the music program. We had no minority officers, no female officers. The highest ranking minority officer that I knew of at the time was a trumpet player, Senior Chief Pete Williams.
Pete Williams. Yeah.
And the talk during that time was that, you know, Pete probably is going to be the first African American to, you know, make LDO and become a band officer. But I asked a question in that forum. I asked Commander Britton, I said, how come we don't have any minority representation in the officer ranks or even in the senior enlisted ranks? And his answer to me was, well, and I'm quite sure I caught him off guard with that question. He says, we just haven't had anyone that was qualified. And being a third class at the time, I said, okay, thank you. And I sat down and I thought about it. And after it was all over, Tex called me into his office. He said, you know, you got a lot of balls asking a question like that to the head of the program. I said, well, I just wanted to know, you know. And he said, well, you seem to have a lot of potential. If you really want to become an officer, this is what you need to do. And we sat down and he mapped out a plan of action. He said, you need to take some correspondence courses. You need to get back to the school and get those tickets punched, get the advanced course, get the intermediate course. You need to go overseas. You need to get yourself in a position of leadership and you know, supervise some people, and then make first class and put your application in and wish for the best. So that plan seemed to work. You know, I got busy.
Told me.
Got busy taking some correspondence courses and did all the right things. Got back to the intermediate course. From there, went overseas to Italy. Worked for Ben McCorney over there. Ben gave me a leadership opportunity to run the Diplomats, the rock band over there.
Yeah.
And after doing Italy, he said, now you need to get your butt back to the school and do the advanced course. So I went from Italy back to the school, did the advanced course, and I think Captain Phillips was you were at the school. You were the CEO during that time, I believe.
It's amazing how it all intertwines.
Yeah, knocked out the advanced course because you were right. That was during the time where there were lots of discussions about the new classes coming up and who was going to make it and who wasn't. You know, so to make it through that course was a very significant accomplishment, one which I'm very proud of, because that was when we still had the old course, the 10-month-long course, which was very grueling. And,
Tell me about it.
Oh yeah. If you made it through that one, that was the proving ground.
You saying
there.
10 months?
Yeah.
I had him for a year.
Yeah.